771 days. That's how long organizations had to patch a vulnerability in 2018. By 2021, it was 84 days. By 2023, 6 days. 2024, it was 4 hours. And in 2025, the majority of exploited vulnerabilities were weaponized before they were even publicly disclosed. That's not a trend, that's a collapse. My name is Chris Hughes. This is Resilient Cyber. Let's get into it. So Sergey Epp, the CISO of Sysdig, built the zero-day clock, a live dashboard tracking the collapse of time to exploit across 3,500 CVE exploit pairs from SysAkev, VulnCheckKev, and XDB. The one-year time to exploit threshold was crossed around 2021, 1 month around 2025, and 1 week in 2026. The one-day mark is projected for later this year. And here's a stat that should alarm everyone. 67.2% of exploited CVEs in 2026 are 0 days. It's up from 16.1% in 2018. 2/3 of exploited vulnerabilities are weaponized before or on the day of disclosure. The reactive model of find it, disclose it, patch it, deploy it has already failed for the majority of what's already being exploited. Epp traces his crisis back 20 years in comparison to a companion piece he writes called The Collapse. The short version is this: cybersecurity isn't failing because of bad technology. It's failing because of bad incentives. The people who build insecure software don't pay when it gets hacked. Bruce Schneier made this point in 2007 that no industry in 150 years has improved safety without government regulation. Not aviation, not automotive, not pharma. I've been making this argument myself. CISA's Secure by Design pledge has over 280 signatories and only 7.5% have even provided updates. Just 2% of critical infrastructure entities met CISA's voluntary performance goals. Voluntary pledges without enforcement don't change behavior when the competing incentives and speed to market and revenue are there. And the AI into the picture. Daniel Kang showed that GPT-4 could exploit known flaws at 87% success rates for $8.80 an exploit. By 2026, AI agent swarms were finding over 100 exploitable vulnerabilities in Windows kernel drivers in 30 days for $600. Cost per bug, $4. Epp calls this the verifier's law. AI scales with how cheap verification is. And in offense, verification is binary and instant. Did the exploit work? Yes or no? In defense, it's ambiguous, slow, and expensive. Offense has the cheapest verifier in cybersecurity. The collapsing timeline would be bad enough alone, but CVE volume is exploding. 25,000 CVEs in 2022, 40,000 in 2024, over 48,000 in 2025, and that's a 520% increase since 2016. In 2025, DBRR showed that 34% year-over-year rise in breaches via vulnerability exploitation as a primary attack vector. Meanwhile, developers are using AI coding assistants and reporting 40% or more productivity gains. More code produced faster with less review. The attack surface is not just growing, it's being manufactured at an industrial scale. Here's where I think gets lost in all of this as well. Finding vulnerabilities has never been the hard part. Fixing them is. The industry doesn't have a detection deficit, it has a remediation crisis. Scientia Institute, for example, had shown that organizations can only remediate about 10% of new vulnerabilities per month. Resilient and Ponemon found backlogs in hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions in large organizations. And zero-day clock's own math is brutal. When a patch drops, AI can reverse engineer it, generate a working exploit in minutes, and attacks propagate within hours. But organizations need an average of 20 days to deploy the same patch. The defense literally is creating the offense. So context becomes the only lifeline. Reachability analysis shows 92% of vulnerabilities are noise without context, for example. Less than 10% of CVEs per year are ever even exploited. Only 0.2% are used in attacks such as ransomware or APT attacks. Runtime context, exploit intelligence, and environmental factors are what separate signal from the noise. But even with perfect prioritization, someone still has to fix the issues. Engineering teams are under a relentless pressure to ship features and hit revenue targets. Security remediation competes with those in terms of prioritization, and it usually loses. This is why AI-assisted remediation matters. We've spent years celebrating AI's ability to find bugs. The remediation side, the side that actually reduces risk, has largely been untouched. And that's starting to change. It's the most important shift in this entire space, in my opinion. So Epp includes a call to action with 10 demands, including vendor liability, security by default, memory-safe languages, open sourcing defense, and redesigning regulation for machine speed defenses. But the one I think matters the most is bridging the gap between hackers and policymakers. The people who understand how systems break need to be in the room where decisions are made. The zero-day clock is a mirror. It reflects back every structural failure and perverse incentive we've ignored for 20 years. The economic externalities haven't been fixed, the market dynamics haven't changed, and AI has only accelerated this patch paradox that we live in. But the same AI is accelerating exploitation is starting to point toward a future where remediation isn't the bottleneck it's been for 25 years. If we shift the innovation energy from detection to intelligent remediation, we have a shot at changing the math. The clock is ticking, the gap is closing, and the industry that built a $200 billion empire around finding vulnerabilities really needs to wake up and figure out how to fix them before the clock hits zero. And the question becomes less theoretical and more practical. If this was valuable, subscribe and check out the full written breakdown of Resilient Cyber. Links below in the article, as well as the article I wrote. The zero-day clock, CVE, ICU, and all the research in the descriptions are below. Drop a comment. Let me know, how is your organization handling this? I'll see you in the next one.